Welcome back to Generational Dr. Wealth, a personal finance show for doctors. This podcast is for educational entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Always consult your own professionals.
Hello. Welcome back to the Generational Dr. Wealth show. My name is Dr. Jermaine Fetty.
And my name is Donnie Fetty. And welcome back to our Q&A episode of step number 4. So just as a quick life update that we have going on, our son is turning 1 in a couple of weeks. Yeah, so time has flown by.
The big one.
We've done a lot of firsts this year. We most recently went to the beach for the first time. So it's been a wild one, but for the first birthday, we're planning something big, and I'm pretty sure y'all are gonna like it. We're planning a financially themed birthday party. And I know it's probably hard to wrap your mind around, but guess whose idea it was?
You know, it was mine. What better gift to give to the youth than a financial literacy themed first birthday party? And we're gonna have different games. What are some of the games that the kids are gonna be playing?
So we have Uncle Sam Says instead of Simon Says. We have a liquidity pool. We have an asset allocation area. We have market shuffle with giant, like jumbo Uno. We have
money chairs instead of musical chairs. So the kids are going to leave with a lot of good information on how does financial literacy, what exactly is it? The parents are going to learn a lot as well. We also created an insert that the parents are going to be able to take home with the top 4 accounts to be able to start for your youth. And I'm so excited for them to learn about different things. HSA is on there, custodial Roth is on there, a custodial brokerage account is on there, as well as the new Trump account, some information about that particular account. If you would like that handout sent to you, you can DM us or you can send us an email and we'll make sure we can get that account to you if you have any young children that you're saving for.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. We'll keep y'all posted.
Oh yeah. So today we're going to talk about step number 4 of the doctor's blueprint to financial freedom. So step number 1 through step number 3 gives us a nice solid financial foundation for us to be able to step upon as we continue to grow and build wealth. Now that leads us to step number 4 through step number 6. That's our financial framework. This is where the wealth is actually built. Step number 1 through step number 3 is not necessarily worried about building wealth. That's about protecting yourself, to give you clarity of mind to actually build wealth. Because people think like building wealth is just about putting money into an account and watch it go to the moon. Negative. I could put you into the best account that's going to grow forever. But all it takes is one market crash for you to sell and be done with it. But when you have a solid financial foundation, you don't have to worry about selling too early. So in step number 4 through step number 6, now we can actually start building it. And that takes us to today, which is step number 4, save 3 to 6 months worth of income. Take us away. What questions do you have ready for us? I know you have a lot of lined up for us.
Yep. So we have a few different callers that sent in their information and they wanted to know what you thought. So
okay.
Gotta drop some gems for them today.
Let's do it.
All right. So we have our first contestant. We have Dr. Reynolds. He's an emergency medicine physician. His question is, I make over $400,000 a year and still don't have enough savings to survive a real emergency. How much should doctors actually keep in cash before focusing heavily in investing?
That's a very good question. See, Dr. Reynolds, one of the biggest things you always have to keep in mind is the fact that being a doctor, you have a higher income than the average American. We're talking about at least 3 to 6 times as much as the average American. Dr. Reynolds makes $400,000 plus. The average American makes $60,000. So you got to understand that. And on top of that, because of that higher income, a lot of us have a higher debt burden that we have to service as well.
Right.
So yes, on one hand, you're making a higher income, but like what else do you have in your life that you have to take care of and what are you responsible for? When it comes to this high income, it has actually a high responsibility. And that's why in this step number 4, having 3 to 6 months of income saved up puts Dr. Reynolds in a really, really solid foundation. Because what happens is when you have that kind of income, usually your expenses in life start to creep up. You don't usually see somebody making $400,000 who drives a $5,000 car, right? Or lives into an apartment that costs $1,000 with roommates. If you're making $400,000, you're probably gonna have a nicer car, a nicer house, you're probably gonna go on nicer vacations, and then you obviously have student loans to service if you're a part of the 70 to 80% of doctors who do have student debt. This is a great responsibility, and we have to save up these funds. Now, the question is, what's enough to survive a real emergency?
Right.
Again, because you're making about $400,000 a year plus, let's kind of break it down and back it up a little bit. How much is $400,000 across 12 months? Let's put it into the calculator and let's see. So we have $400,000. Quick math divided by 12 months. That's $33,000 a month. Now, how do we save up 3 to 6 months of that? I'm guessing based off of the question, Dr. Reynolds is single. So I'm going to venture on the side of stable job, single. If you have a stable job and you're single, usually 3 months is a safe place to rest upon. So it obviously depends on what kind of expenses you have in your life. But if we're in that ballpark, we're good.
And it should be a little bit easier since he doesn't have anyone else that he's technically saving for.
Yep.
So everything is his decisions, his responsibilities.
Absolutely.
That he's paying for.
Absolutely. So if they're saving 3 months, then that's $33,000 times 3 months. That's basically $100,000. How do you get $100,000 saved up? Is it going to be easy? No. But will it put you into a solid place? Absolutely yes. So before we even talk about investing, I need to see $100,000 in an account ready to go. Now, again, to the average American making $60,000, that sounds absolutely crazy. But for someone who's making $400,000 a year, that's just 1/4 of his income.
Right.
And that's why we got to bring it back into perspective that doctors make a lot more, but we're also responsible for a lot more and usually have a lot more debt compared to the average person. So Dr. Reynolds, make sure you have a solid freedom fund in place with at least 3 months saved up. Make sure you have that $100,000 stashed away in a high yield savings account so you can at least earn that 4 to 5% interest. Then you have the clarity of mind to continue to invest however you see fit.
It's good that you mentioned that you were seeing the scenario as him being single, but you mentioned also if he was married, what would that look like? That's
a really good question. So if I'm thinking through that particular scenario, the number one thing I'm thinking of, does my spouse have a comparable income? If they're a stay-at-home, then you obviously say, no, there's no comparable income.
Right.
But let's say if your spouse is also making $400,000 and you only need 3 months and they need 3 months, put it together, you have 6 months. Now, if you have a stay-at-home spouse, you're going to probably need to be higher up in that. I'm probably saying closer to 5 to 6 months because you need to be able to cover not just your own expenses, but the whole household expenses, the family expenses. So it's always good to keep in mind that, hey, if I'm a single solo earner and have a stable source of income, meaning I'm probably not going to get fired in the next 6 months. I'm probably not going to switch jobs in the next 6 months. 3 months is perfectly okay.
Right.
If you know there's a little bit of fluctuation in your particular job situation, or you're an entrepreneur and you're responsible for yourself, or you have a larger family, or your spouse is stay at home. These are the different scenarios and when you want to be thinking about, okay, 3 months isn't enough. I need to be leaning to 5 to 6 months of income to be in a solid place.
That's good.
Hello, I'm Jonathan with Team Financials, and here at Team Financials, we make filing simple, accurate, and stress-free. Tax season does not have to be stressful, and we are here to make it as simple and stress-free as possible for you. Whether you need help with your personal tax return or your business owner looking for expert tax preparation, our experienced team is here to guide you every step of the way. We don't just file your taxes. Our slogan here at Team Financials is we educate so you can elevate, because when you understand your finances, you make stronger, smarter moves for your future. If you mention Dr. Wealth when filing with us, you will receive $75 off your personal and business tax preparations. Ready to get started? Please reach out to us at 704-412-4242 or book directly on our website at teamfinancials.com. Take care. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.
So we have our next doctor. We have Dr. Martinez. He is a veterinarian. And he wants to know, I want to quit my job tomorrow, but I can't financially afford to leave. How much savings does someone need before they can truly have career freedom?
That's a really good question. Now, being a veterinarian, usually the average income for a vet ranges between $140,000 to $175,000, and that's usually for an associate vet. Now, for this particular scenario, you can easily work backwards and do the math to figure out how much is 3 to 6 months worth of income. Now, if you're thinking about switching jobs, so I'm going to really approach this from you're thinking about switching job type angle, then I would mentally want to make sure I'm in the 5 to 6 months worth of income versus a 3 months of income if you know you're switching jobs. And the reason I say that is because the way the market currently is, you never know how long it's going to take you to find the next job. If you're already in a toxic job now, you want to make sure you have enough time to be able to sort through all the possible jobs you're interested in looking at to find the right position. Because the only thing worse than going from one toxic position is going to another toxic position. So to make sure you have enough time to be able to really go into these offices, shadow for a day or two, ask the right questions, take your time, really sort through your offers. You might need to switch cities altogether. You might need to move. When you have 6 months of income saved up, that gives you the time necessary to be able to find the right position for you. See, now, if you're on more of 3 months income, you can burn through that relatively quick.
Depending on how expensive your lifestyle is.
Where you're living at, are you moving? Are there moving expenses or not moving expenses? You know, like, do you need tail coverage because based on your malpractice insurance, you have claim-based versus occurrence-based? These are all the kind of questions you have to ask yourself when you're thinking about switching jobs. It's not just walk in and say, you know what, I quit. I know we see that in Hollywood and it seems cool, right? But being a doctor, you have a bigger responsibility, and not just to your own personal financial situation, but also to your patients. You want to make sure that there's a continuity plan in place. See, a lot of people don't think about that when they're switching jobs. They're not thinking about the patients who have entrusted you, who said, you know what, you are my doc. When you're going through this, again, being a vet, I'm sure there's plenty of animals that Dr. Martinez is serving. You need to make sure that there's a smooth plan in place, because being a travel dentist working over 100 different cities, I saw what it looked like when doctors abandoned their posts, either because they were fired or because they decided to move on or whatever the situation is. So most of the offices I would work at, there will be no doctor in a 50-mile radius of that particular location, because I work in a lot of rural areas. So what happens in a rural area when somebody leaves their job and there's not a continuity plan in place, it really puts a tough bind on that community. I know we like to think about ourselves that, you know what, I need to be mentally in a good space, and I agree with that 100%. But also keep in mind the 1,000+ patients you might be serving that need you to feel confident to go through their life.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that you even brought up the different scenarios that especially whether they're a seasoned doctor or even a new grad, especially a new grad. And you are graduating, you've passed your board exams, you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you think this is going to be the job. Interview went perfect, everything is flawless, contract is beautiful, chef's kiss. This is going to be where I am going to grow in my career and I'm going to take over one day. But then you come in and it's terrible. And that's a very common theme across not just doctors, it's across hygienists. I hear it less with assistants, but you don't necessarily know what something is like on the outside, like looking through the window. So having that freedom fund can allow you, like you said, to shadow those offices even before you sign the name on the dotted line and say, yes, I want to work here, and lock yourself into something for 2 years.
Absolutely. So, I recommend to everybody out there, like, if you're in a toxic situation, start planning your exit now. Don't just stay in a toxic situation that's toxic to you financially or toxic to you mentally. Start planning what it looks like to come out of that by making sure you have a nice financial foundation in place.
Yeah.
So now that you have decided you're going to come out of a toxic situation, you want to be thinking to yourself, what's going to be my next step? See, after you decide to leave and you moved on and you're looking for your next position, I highly recommend going to go see where you're thinking about working. Actually get a good look at what the flow of the day looks like. I've only worked one associateship in my entire life, but for that one associateship, I went to the city, I shadowed the doctors, I actually spent the full day to figure out, is this somewhere I would want to work? And for me personally, I said yes to that question, right? And that gave me peace of mind knowing that, okay, I'm not even choosing this position. One of the main reasons I chose that particular associateship was because there was an experienced and seasoned clinician that was going to be side by side with me. So you got to think to yourself, okay, what is currently in place? Because a mentor always told me, never choose a job based off promises of what's going to be there when you work there. Look at the position today. Assume nothing's going to change. And if it stayed that way, would you say yes?
Right.
If they're promising you, I remember when I was going through the job search, they promised me, hey, we're going to have new technology there by the time you get there. New CBCT. We're going to double the staff. We're going to shorten the hours. All these different promises. None of that ever came to fruition because one of my colleagues actually ended up taking that position and said, I wish I never chose this position. So as you're going through your job search as you're finding the next dream position, make sure you do not take rose-colored glasses into that position. I want you to go in there and see what it's truly worth to make sure you are finding a position that's going to serve you for years to come.
And I think to add to that, everything won't be perfect.
Absolutely not.
So it won't be the dream position where everything is just like check marks going down the board. However, figuring out what is worth your time and what you can tolerate. So there will be pros, there will be cons, but do the cons outweigh the pros? Do the cons not affect your mental health and stability? That would make the difference of what position you decide to move forward with.
Absolutely. Choose your heart, right? Because so the first position I accepted, that was for 12 hours a day, 3 days a week, including Saturdays, Fridays, and Thursdays.
Yeah.
To somebody, that's outrageous. There's no way I could give up my Saturdays and my Fridays. To you, that would be impossible, right? But for me, that was okay.
Yeah.
So again, it's choose your hard and make sure that the hard, because every position is going to be hard in its own certain way, right? But make sure it's hard aligns with your strengths to make sure that it does not overpower you, but you can actually bring what makes you special to that position.
Right. Okay. That's good. If you've been listening to the show, you probably heard us talk about the Doctor's Blueprint, the 9-step framework that helps doctors go from 6-figure debt to financial freedom. But a lot of listeners have asked the same question. How do I apply this to my own situation? That's exactly why we created the Dr. Wealth Blueprint Plan. It's a personalized financial roadmap designed specifically for doctors. We walk through your entire financial picture, your debt, insurance coverage, saving strategies, investment plan, and long-term goals, and then turn it into a clear step-by-step plan based on the doctor's blueprint. If you're interested, just text the word blueprint to 704-336-9313, and we'll send you the details and application. Again, that's blueprint to 704-336-9313 to learn more about the Dr. Wealth Blueprint Plan. And so we have Dr. Blake. He's an anesthesiologist, and he wants to know, so he says, I have over $500,000 in my investment accounts, and I make over $500,000 annually. I learned from the blueprint that I'm supposed to keep 3 to 6 months of income in my freedom fund. But isn't it better to have my money grow in the stock market?
I love this question. Being in this kind of position, Dr. Blake, one of the number one things that I honor and love about you, that you are what we call an optimizer. You're someone who wants to make sure that every dollar is working, every dollar has a place. And that's a really good mindset to have. Being a doctor, if you need a sabbatical, you might need to be able to take a sabbatical. If you need some time to be able to do more free charity work and go overseas because that's where your heart is tugged. See, being a doctor, our heart is involved in our work.
Right.
So you want to make sure you have that clarity of mind to be able to go wherever your heart takes you, because that's usually when people feel burnt out. When there's a conflict between their mind and their heart, when their mind's telling them I have to go to work and their heart's telling them I can't go to work.
Right.
When those two banging against one another, that's what leads to burnout. So being a doctor, it's important for us to make sure that those two are never in conflict. And by making sure we have a freedom fund in place, that's at least one more opportunity for our mind and our heart not to be on the same page. So in this scenario, I love that you're an aggressive investor, but I do want to tell you, let's take a step back. How much are you actually holding in cash? So understand, to the average American, having $50,000 is amazing if they're making $60,000. But for someone who's making $500,000, that means they're making roughly about $42,000 a month. That's just not enough. So we're talking about 3 to 6 months. You're really starting to creep into 6-figure territory. At least we're talking about $120,000, probably closer to $250,000. It's just not enough. When to have that much into the stock market, have $500,000 in the stock market, but have very little to no liquidity, which means like cash in your hand that you can use to take care of situations. That's just not a safe place to be in. And understand, someone who's going to be more aggressive, there's going to be larger swings in their net worth, right? So for instance, when the Iran war first started in America, most portfolios dipped at least 10 to 20%. So that $500,000 would have dipped down about $400,000.
Right.
Are you okay with seeing the number on the screen going from $500,000 down to $400,000? Are you okay with that? Because if you're not okay with that, then you should not be investing at this particular time. See, me personally, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with seeing those swings because we have our freedom fund in place. I know that Nothing that happens in the market is going to affect our day to day. I can go into procedures with a clear mind, knowing that, hey, I can take a look at the market, but regardless if it's bleeding red is what we call it, when everything is going down across every sector, when everything is bleeding red, it does not affect me at all.
Yeah.
I don't want, as an anesthesiologist, Dr. Blake, thinking about the market when you need to be thinking about your patients. Understand, that's why I keep saying, right? We have a bigger responsibility to our patients to make sure your doctor is financially free. And the only way to do that is to build wealth the right way, to not skip steps, but also make sure that we are putting funds in the right places. And it might take a little bit more time to do it by doing it the slow way, but we're doing it the right way. Imagine if Dr. Blake, right before COVID happened, if he had all his money in the stock market, and then everything in COVID, which dipped 30 to 40%, happened overnight.
People's lives are at risk. Yeah.
People's lives are at risk. Now he's going into the office thinking more about the dollars than the patients. Like, that is a dangerous game to play when we are working
on anesthesiologist, people's lives are in the balance.
Like, you make $500,000, but there's a reason why you make that kind of money, right? You make that kind of money because you're usually dealing with someone's life.
Yeah.
So understand, it's a responsibility that we must bear. It's a blessing on one hand, but it's also a responsibility. And in the great words of Peter Parker, with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, we were watching The Amazing Spider-Man, and for some reason that clicked into my head this past weekend.
I did not see that one coming.
That's the kind of things you do on a beach trip when your son turns 1.
But yeah, that was a good one. Definitely making sure that you operate, or whatever it is that any of these doctors do, they do so with a clear mind and a clear conscience. So they're not trying to figure out how to upcharge on a patient because they lost that $100,000 in the stock market. So definitely important. All right. So it looks like that was a very action-packed episode. Remember, key takeaway, saving up for your freedom fund, 3 to 6 months of your income. 3 months more so for solo, 6 months more so for breadwinner, entrepreneur, anyone that fits into that category. So we can't wait to see how you all implement these strategies into your plan.
Absolutely. It was a fun episode. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Generational Dr. Wealth Show. Peace.
Bye.
This show is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to be financial, legal, or medical advice. We are not acting as your personal financial advisors. The strategies discussed are general in nature and may not be appropriate for your individual situations. You should always consult your own qualified financial, tax, and legal professionals before making decisions about your money. The host and guests are not responsible for any actions you take based on the information shared on this show.